I came back early because the laundromat was emptier than usual, which felt like a good enough reason at the time. Tuesdays are supposed to be loud there, quarters clinking, dryers thudding like tired hearts. But that afternoon it was just the hum of machines and a woman folding shirts with the kind of care that made me slow down without meaning to. I wasn't supposed to be home yet. I'd planned to kill another hour at the cafe down the block, pretend to read, stare at my phone like something might finally arrive. But the barista had already wiped the counter, and the window light was going thin. So I carried my warm clothes back, the bag biting into my palm, and pushed through the front door. She was at the table by the window, mid-40s, maybe older if you counted the way she held herself. Not dressed for company. Hair pulled back like she'd done it without a mirror. She looked up when the door chimed, paused, then smiled like she was checking something off a list. "You're early," she said. "Yeah," I said. Machines were cooperative. She nodded, like that made sense. Like she understood things that didn't need explaining. I set my bag down and folded a sock, then unfolded it, then folded it again tighter. She noticed. I could tell because her eyes flicked to my hands and back to my face, polite about it. I tried to be normal and failed in a small way. That's kind of my specialty. We'd met before, of course. Brief hellos on the stairs. A nod when I moved in. She lived upstairs. I rented the ground floor. That was the arrangement. Practical. Clean. She was my landlady, which felt like a word that belonged to someone else's life, not mine. "You want coffee?" she asked, already reaching for the thermos on the counter. "I'm okay," I said, then added, "Actually, yeah. Sure." She poured without asking how I took it. Just a little milk. I noticed because it was right. I took the mug with both hands and let the heat settle into me. We stood there, not quite facing each other, like we were waiting for a cue that never came. She told me the upstairs sink was acting up again. I told her the radiator clicked at night. We both laughed, not because it was funny, but because the sound filled a space that had gone too quiet. I folded another sock. She straightened a stack of mail that wasn't hers. I thought about the message I'd typed earlier and never sent. To no one specific. Just a line in my notes app. "You're still here." I closed my phone when she glanced at it, embarrassed by the idea of being seen doing nothing. The light shifted. The clock on the wall ticked too loud. She asked how work was. I said, "Fine," and meant it the way people mean fine when they don't want to inventory the damage. "Stay warm," she said when I lifted my bag. "I'll try." At the door, I hesitated. Not dramatically, just long enough to notice the space between us, how it had a shape now. She held my gaze a second too long, then looked at my shoes. "Good night," she said. "Night." I went back to my place and set the clothes down without putting them away. The room felt smaller than it had that morning. I sat on the bed and waited for the feeling to pass. It didn't. At 12:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. A missed call. No voicemail. Just her name, quiet and bright on the screen. I stared at it, then at the ceiling, and wondered what changes when you come home early. The missed call sat there the next morning like a bruise you keep pressing to see if it still hurts. I didn't bring it up when I saw her on the stairs. I pretended not to notice the way she stopped one step above me, like she was deciding whether to come down or let me pass. She had a grocery bag hooked over one arm. Oranges. Something green the first couldn't name. "Hey," she said. "Hey." We both looked at the bag, then at the door, then back at each other. I reached for it before thinking. "I can take that." "It's not heavy," she said, but she let go anyway. Inside, she set the bag on the counter and leaned back against it, like she wasn't sure if she was staying. I handed it back, then felt stupid for doing that, so I started unloading it. Oranges rolled. One hit the floor. I picked it up and wiped it on my sleeve. "Still good," I said. She smiled, the corner of her mouth only. "You don't have to rescue my groceries." "I know." I noticed then that she'd changed the thermos. Different color. Same dent near the lid. She followed my eyes. "Old one started leaking," she said. "This one's temporary." Everything with her seemed to be temporary. The way she stood. The way she spoke. Like she was renting space in her own life. She poured tea this time. Chamomile. We sat at the small table by the window, not across from each other, but at an angle, knees almost touching. I folded the napkin in half, then in quarters, then smoothed it flat. She watched me do it, then did the same with hers, like we were mirroring without agreeing to. "Did I wake you?" she asked finally. I shook my head. "No. I was up." She nodded. "Didn't ask why." That felt like a kindness. She stopped, tapped the mug with her finger. The smoke alarm went off upstairs. Middle of the night. I panicked and hit the wrong number. "Yeah," I said. "That happens." Silence. Not awkward. Just present. "My son used to do that," she said suddenly. "Call me at work and hang up before it rang twice. Just to see if I'd notice." I waited. He's grown now. Live's 3 hours away. She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. Doesn't need to check if I'm paying attention. I pictured her in a different house, a different kitchen, a phone ringing she didn't answer in time. I didn't know why that image stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me waiting, too. "You miss him," I said. She shrugged. "I miss the noise. The proof that someone would knock on my door without a reason." I thought about how I always knocked, even when the door was open. We talked about small things after that. My job, her upstairs sink, the neighbor's dog that barked at nothing. I imagined other versions of us. Older me, younger her, and felt embarrassed by how quickly my mind went there. I reminded myself she was my landlady. Divorced. A mother. A person with lines on her hands I kept noticing when she lifted the mug. "You ever think about moving?" she asked. "All the time," I said. "I don't think I will, though." She looked at me then. Really looked. Like she was measuring something invisible. "Good," she said too quickly. When I stood to leave, she stood too. We were close enough that I could smell the soap on her wrists. Clean. Familiar, somehow. She reached past me to grab the empty mugs, her fingers brushing my arm. "Just a second." "Enough. Thanks for the tea," I said. "Anytime." At the door, she hesitated. Her hand hovered near my shoulder, then dropped. "Lock up if you go out," she said. "I will." I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me and decided not to look away. After that, she stopped leaving the door open. Not dramatically. Just, it was closed when I came home. Locked sometimes. I told myself it was weather, or noise, or a new habit she was trying on. Still, the change pressed on me. Like a chair moved slightly to the left. You don't trip, but your body remembers where it used to be. I started timing my evenings differently. Later showers. Longer walks. I told myself I wasn't waiting for anything. I was just avoiding the quiet. When I did see her, it was brief. A nod. A morning. She'd hold her keys tighter, like they were an answer. Once, she started to say something and stopped, eyes flicking past me toward the stairs. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine," she said. The word landed flat. I imagined what she thought I wanted. Something reckless. Something that would make sense only if you ignored everything else. I imagined correcting her, explaining that I didn't even know what I wanted, that I just liked the way she noticed things, the way she poured tea like it mattered. One evening, the radiator clicked louder than usual. I stood there listening to it argue with itself, then grabbed my jacket and went upstairs. I knocked. Once. Then again, softer. She opened the door halfway. "Chain still on?" "Yes." "The radiator. Sorry, it's loud." I thought. She hesitated, then unhooked the chain. The door opened wider. She stepped back, letting me in like it was a decision she could still undo. The apartment smelled like something baked earlier and forgotten. Lights low. A blanket folded too neatly on the couch. She crossed her arms, then uncrossed them. "I can call someone," she said. "I can look," I said. "If that's okay." She nodded. Watched me kneel by the radiator, my shoulder brushing her knee when I leaned in. I tightened a valve. The clicking softened. Not gone. Just calmer. "Better," I said. "Thank you." We stood there after, neither of us moving toward the door. She picked up the thermos, the temporary one, and poured tea without asking. Her hand shook a little. She noticed I noticed and steadied it. "My friend asked about you," she said, like it was a fact she'd rehearsed. "Oh," she said, "you seem settled." I almost laughed. Instead, I looked at my hands. Quiet hands. Empty. "I don't want to misunderstand," she said. "I can't." "I know," I said too quickly. I wasn't. We stopped. Words piled up between us and used. Someone knocked. Sharp. 3 times. A voice, male, familiar, called her name. A neighbor. Or a friend. Or someone who belonged here more than I did. She flinched. Just a little. "I should," she said. "Yeah." At the door, she touched my wrist. Not to stop me. Just to mark the moment. Her thumb pressed once, then lifted. I leaned in without deciding to. She tilted her head, then stilled. So close I could count the freckles near her eye. "I don't know what you want," she whispered. Neither did I. I only knew how it felt to almost say it. She stepped back, opened the door. The hallway air rushed in, cool and corrective. "Good night," she said. "Night." I went downstairs with the sound of her voice still in my ear, and the space where we didn't cross the line felt heavier than if we took a walk, because neither of us suggested not taking one. It was early evening, that in-between hour where the day hasn't decided if it's over yet. The streetlights weren't on. The air smelled like cut grass and something metallic, like rain that changed its mind. She locked the door behind us, clicked it twice, and slipped the keys into her pocket instead of her bag. We didn't touch. We walked side by side, a half step apart. Not close enough to brush. Not far enough to pretend. "I usually go this way," she said, nodding toward the longer street. "Okay." Her pace was steady. Mine adjusted without me noticing. I watched her hands when she talked. Watched how she kept them busy, tugging her sleeves, pressing her thumb into her palm. Like stillness would give something away. A block in, we passed the cafe. The one I used to sit in too long. There was someone at the window laughing with a woman I recognized vaguely. From upstairs, maybe. She looked at me, then at her, then away. Too quick. "You know her?" I asked, immediately regretting it. She didn't answer right away. We crossed the street. She waited until the light changed even though there were no cars. "She's a friend," she said. She asked if we were. She stopped. The word didn't land. "What?" I asked. She shook her head. "Never mind." But it stayed. The unfinished thing. I felt it tighten somewhere behind my ribs. Jealousy wasn't the right word. Fear wasn't either. It was closer to realizing how visible we'd become without agreeing to be seen. We reached the small park near the corner, the one with the bench that always faced the wrong direction, toward the street instead of the trees. She sat anyway. I followed, leaving space between us that neither of us liked. "I should have been clearer," she said. "About what?" I thought. "Everything." "I don't do this," she went on. "Whatever this is." "I don't," she laughed dry. "I'm not reckless. I don't get confused." I stared at the crack in the sidewalk. Memorized its shape. "I don't think you're reckless," I said. She looked at me then. Really looked. The light caught the lines near her eyes, softened them instead of hiding them. That's the problem. Silence. A car passed. Somewhere, a phone chimed and was ignored. "I keep thinking," she said, quieter now, "that I should move you to month. Or tell you I'm selling. Or do something practical that fixes this without naming it. And would that work?" I asked. She didn't answer. I imagined packing boxes. Leaving the thermos behind. Coming back weeks later with an excuse. Returning something small that meant too much. The thought settled in me like a bruise. "I don't want to be something you regret," I said. Her shoulders dropped. Just a little. "I already regret how much I think about it," she said. "About you." The words were careful, measured, but they landed anyway. I turned toward her. Our knees almost touched. She noticed. Didn't move. "I don't know what I want from you," I said. "I just know I don't want to be invisible again." She closed her eyes. Not dramatically, just long enough to make a decision harder. "I see you," she said. "That's what scares me." She reached out then. Stopped halfway. Let her hand hover between us like a question she didn't trust herself to ask. I could have closed the distance. Could have answered for both of us. Instead, I stayed still. Her hand dropped to the bench. Fingers spread. Empty. A breeze moved through the trees behind us. The park smelled like damp earth. The day finally gave up and the streetlights flickered on, one by one, too bright. If this keeps going, she said, someone gets hurt. Do you think it already has? I asked. She looked at me, and for a second there was no age between us. No roles. Just two people standing too close to a line. She leaned in. Not all the way. Close enough that her breath warmed my cheek. Close enough that stopping became its own action. She didn't kiss me. She pulled back instead, eyes searching my face like the answer might be written there if she stared long enough. What are we doing? She asked. After the park, she went quiet. Not all at once. Not in a way you could accuse. Just slower replies. Shorter nods. A recalibration I wasn't invited into. The door stayed locked now, always. The light upstairs went off earlier. When we crossed paths, she smiled like someone doing a good job of being polite. I told myself it was relief. I told myself this was the correction she'd warned me about. So I stopped lingering. I changed my routine the way you do when you don't want to admit you're adjusting around someone. I came home later. I took calls outside. I didn't knock when the radiator clicked. I let it argue with itself all night. A week passed. Maybe two. Time went strange, elastic, unreliable. One afternoon, I came home to a car in the driveway I didn't recognize. Older. Clean. Not visiting. Parked like it belonged. Upstairs, I heard voices. A man's laugh. Familiar in the way strangers sometimes are. I paused at the bottom of the stairs, keys warm in my hand. Considered going up. Considered leaving. Did neither. Just stood there long enough for the sound to rearrange something in me. That night, she didn't come down. The next morning, there was a note on my door. Handwritten. Careful. My son's visiting for a while. Things might be different. Thank you for understanding. No signature. Just her handwriting. Rounded. Controlled. Different how, I wondered. Different like furniture moved. Different like doors closed. Different like this had always been temporary, and I'd just missed the exit sign. I pictured her son. Grown. Taller than me, probably. Sitting at the kitchen table I'd never been invited to. Seeing me as a tenant. A background detail. I imagined her explaining nothing. I didn't see her for days after that. When I did, it was accidental. The mailbox. She had groceries again. I didn't reach for the bag this time. Hey, she said. Hey. Her eyes looked tired. Not sad. Just managed. He's staying longer, she said, as if continuing a conversation we'd never finished. That's good, I said. Family. She nodded. Waited. Maybe for something else. I didn't give it to her. Everything okay? She asked. I almost laughed. Instead, I shrugged. Yeah, just busy. The lie sat between us, clean and unchallenged. That night, I typed a message. Deleted it. Typed another. I miss our walks. Too much. Hope your son's doing well. Too empty. Did I do something wrong? No. I left the phone face down on the table and stared at the wall until the radiator clicked itself quiet. Days later, I passed the park. The bench faced the wrong way, like always. Empty. I sat anyway. Watched people pass without seeing me. I wondered if she walked there now with him. If she avoided it. If it meant nothing at all. Hope came in stupid flashes. Her car pulling in. A light upstairs left on. The door unlocked just once. Nothing followed. Then one evening, I came home earlier than usual. The old habit, resurfacing. The driveway was empty. Upstairs, the lights were on. I stood there, keys in hand, and felt the familiar pull. Knock, return something, invent a reason. I didn't. I went inside. Sat on the couch. The space felt paused, like it was holding its breath for something I wasn't going to give it. My phone buzzed. A message from her. He left today. I stared at it. The words didn't ask anything. Didn't offer anything. Just existed. I typed back. How are you? Stopped. Deleted it. I imagined knocking now. The door opening. The look on her face, relief or regret, maybe both. I imagined her saying my name the way she used to, like it belonged to a smaller room. I didn't move. The bench stayed empty. The door stayed closed. The message stayed unsent. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. The knock surprised me because I'd already decided not to make one. It was late, not midnight late, but late enough that the building had settled into itself. The radiator was quiet. The upstairs light had been on for hours. I was standing in the kitchen, staring into the fridge without looking for anything, when the sound came. One knock, then nothing. I waited, counted to 5, walked to the door anyway. She stood there with her keys in her hand, jacket still on. Hair loose this time, like she hadn't planned to be seen. She didn't smile. She didn't apologize. "I'm not staying," she said. Can we talk?" "Yeah," I said. "Of course." She stepped inside like someone entering a room they already knew. Looked around, not curious. Familiar. That landed harder than I expected. We stood in the kitchen. Same table. Different distance. The thermos was on the counter, the temporary one, empty and rinsed, upside down. "I shouldn't be here," she said. "I know." That surprised her. She looked at me then, really looked, like she was checking if I meant it. "My son asked about you," she said. "Not directly. He said you seemed kind." I waited. "I realized I'd been editing myself," she went on. "Around him. Around you. Around everyone." She laughed once, breathy. "I'm tired of that." I leaned against the counter. Grounded myself. "What do you want?" I asked. She took a breath. Let it out slow. "I want to stop pretending this didn't happen." Silence. The fridge hummed. Somewhere upstairs, a pipe knocked once and stopped. "I don't need anything from you," she said quickly. "I'm not asking for a future or promises. She searched for the word. Didn't find it. "I don't want to carry it alone." I felt the cost of that then. The risk. Saying it meant we couldn't put it back the way it was. Silence had been protecting us from something. From ourselves, maybe. I thought I imagined it. I said. "For a while." She shook her head. "You didn't." I stepped closer. Not touching. Just closer enough that the space changed temperature. "I was scared," she said. "Of how easy it felt. Of how seen I was. That's not supposed to happen like that." "I know," I said. "But it did." She nodded. Looked down at her hands. Lines I knew now. The small scar near her thumb. "I can't keep this," she said. "Whatever it is. I don't trust myself not to want more." There it was. The edge. I thought about asking her to stay. About saying something brave and foolish and true. I felt how much I wanted it, and how much it would cost her. "Then don't," I said instead. "Don't keep it." She looked up, startled. "Let it be what it was," I said. "Something that mattered. That still does. But doesn't ask you to become someone else." Her eyes filled just slightly. She didn't let it go further. "I needed to hear that," she said. "I needed to say it." We stood there, the almost between us thinning. She reached out, took my hand, just held it. No squeezing, no promise. Her hand was warm. "Steady." "Okay," she said. "Okay," I said back. She let go first, stepped back. The moment shifted, not gone, but placed carefully somewhere we could both reach without hurting ourselves. At the door, she paused, turned. "Thank you," she said. "Not for one thing. For all of it." I nodded. She left. The door closed. Not slammed. Not rushed. I stood there for a long time after. Then I poured water into the thermos, screwed the lid on, and set it by the sink. For whoever needed it next. Upstairs, the light went off. Downstairs, I turned mine on. Time didn't fix things. It just made them easier to carry. Weeks passed. Then months. The seasons shifted in small, practical ways. Lighter mornings, longer evenings, fewer layers between skin and air. The house adjusted too. Doors opened more often. Not wide. Just enough. We found a rhythm that didn't announce itself. At 8:47 a.m., almost without fail, she'd leave for work. I started waking up earlier, not to catch her, but because my body learned the sound of her steps. Some mornings we crossed paths by the door. Some mornings we didn't. Either way, the day felt started. She stopped calling the thermos temporary. It stayed on the counter now. Sometimes full. Sometimes empty. Sometimes washed and upside down like before, but it belonged. We didn't talk about the night she knocked. We didn't need to. What mattered was what followed. The choice to stay present without pretending we hadn't almost left. The bench at the park became ours in a quiet way. Not every day, not even every week, just often enough that it remembered us. We'd sit facing the wrong direction, watching the street instead of the trees, sharing tea or black coffee, depending on the hour. Knees close, hands mostly to ourselves. Once, she laughed and said, "This bench still makes no sense." "It does," I said. "You just have to stop expecting it to." She looked at me like I'd said something important, even though I hadn't meant to. Life didn't simplify itself for us. Her son visited again. This time, introductions were made. Polite. Ordinary. No explanations offered. None asked for. I stayed in my place that evening, gave them space, and felt something new settle in me. Not fear, not jealousy. Trust. She told me, once, while rinsing mugs at the sink, that she liked who she was now. Not because of me. With me. "I don't feel edited," she said. Neither did I. There were still lines we didn't cross loudly. No declarations shouted into the night. No sudden rewriting of futures. Just steady presence. Earned comfort. A hand resting on my arm when she passed behind me. My jacket left upstairs on accident. On purpose. Sometimes we talked about nothing for an hour. Sometimes we sat in silence and let it be enough. I learned the difference. On a rainy evening, months after the park, she reached for my hand first. No hesitation. No testing. Just a simple human thing done when it made sense. We stood there by the window, rain tapping out its patient rhythm, and stayed exactly where we were. Later, much later, there was a kiss. Not a breaking point. Not a reward. Just something that arrived after everything else had already settled. It didn't change the world. It made the room warmer. I still drink black coffee most mornings. She still prefers tea in the afternoon. Sometimes she forgets and pours me the wrong thing. Sometimes I drink it anyway. The radiator still clicks now and then. I don't rush to fix it. Neither does she. Some sounds don't mean trouble. They just mean the building is alive. We don't talk about age, or roles, or what this is supposed to look like from the outside. We talk about groceries, about work, about which route is quieter this time of day, about the neighbor's dog that still barks at nothing. Once, sitting on the bench as the lights came on one by one, she said, "I'm glad you came home early that day." "So am I," I said. That felt like enough. And it was.